Are you ready to unlock your full potential and maximize your productivity? Look no further than Productivity Smarts, the ultimate audio podcast hosted by renowned productivity expert Gerald J. Leonard. In every episode, Gerald shares captivating stories, invaluable tips, and cutting-edge strategies that will transform the way you approach productivity. Whether you're looking to reduce stress, overcome overwhelm, or simply get more done in less time, Productivity Smarts has got you covered. But that's not all. You'll also gain inspiration from real-life success stories of individuals who have achieved greatness through productivity. Plus, you'll learn the latest tools, techniques, and habits that will help you achieve a new level of happiness and fulfillment in your personal and professional life. So why wait? Join us every week as we delve into the exciting world of productivity and help you unleash your full potential. Get ready to take your productivity to the next level with Productivity Smarts. As a productivity expert and host of the Productivity Smarts podcast, Gerald J. Leonard has been a proud supporter of Kiva since 2011. Kiva is a non-profit organization that helps entrepreneurs in third-world countries access the capital they need to start or grow their businesses. By making a small loan through Kiva, you can help these entrepreneurs achieve their dreams, support their families, and contribute to their local economies. And with a repayment rate of over 96%, your loan can be relent to another entrepreneur once it's repaid, creating a ripple effect of positive change. So if you're looking for a meaningful way to make a difference in the world, consider making a loan through Kiva. With loans as small as $25, anyone can be a microlender and help change lives. Visit kiva.org to learn more and start lending today.
Well, today I am speaking to Agnes Chau, an award-winning transformational life coach and the founder of the Empowered Heart, which is a nonprofit. With a rich background in aerospace engineering and a passion for empowering individuals, Agnes specializes in helping clients overcome limiting beliefs and unlocking their full potential. Agnes, how are you?
I'm great, Gerald. Thank you so much for having me on your show.
No problem at all. No problem at all. And I know we met at the International Association of Top Professionals, and they recognize you for all the work that you're doing. But I always ask my guests before we get into the content or the deep, discussions around neuroscience and all these great things, because, I'm a musician. I ask the question of what's your favorite style of music?
Well, I love a variety of music. I have a passion for listening to sound healing music, all types of sound healing music, including brain intelligence music.
Okay.
And that's really important for me, especially since I found that my body can actually vibrate to certain musical songs that really resonate with my body and actually help me think better and have greater mental clarity and calmness as well.
Oh, wow. Wow. Now, do you know the artist who's recording this music? Like what's your favorite song or what's your favorite wavelength? Is it delta, theta, beta? Which one is it?
Well, I'll answer that with two. One is my favorite song is actually the 999 hertz golden waves music.
Oh, wow.
And the artist, I believe, is Danya. And the other music that I listen to almost every day is 40 hertz gamma waves.
Okay.
And that's because there's been studies done, even by MIT, that 40 hertz gamma waves has been known to actually reduce beta amyloid plaques and tau proteins. And that those are signs of Alzheimer's.
Right.
And so having had my brain scanned and recognizing that I had PTSD, I was on this path of identifying any and all methods that could actually help improve my brain health. And so 40 hertz gamma waves, I listen to that every day for about half an hour to an hour.
That is amazing. That is amazing. Because I do know, obviously I'm a musician, and I do know that, the brain waves, whether it's theta or delta, I hadn't heard of the 40, was it 40?
40 hertz.
40 hertz gamma I listen to, if I listen to any brainwave, it's usually around full theta or it's around delta. And I'll listen to that
Okay.
when I'm kind of like writing out my goals or meditating, because it puts you in that kind of that place where you're tapping into your non-conscious mind, if you will.
Yes.
And so then that it helps me reprogram some of the limiting beliefs over time of writing out my goals and affirmations and so on and so forth. But we'll get into that. So tell me, how did you go from being an aerospace engineer, right, which is very left brain, to what you're doing now, which is almost a little bit more right brain? And you've become very successful because you have a nonprofit, Empowering Hearts, which you help other women. And so tell us your story. How did you go from point A to point B?
Well, I've always had a passion to get to the root of challenges as quickly, efficiently as possible, and identifying corrective actions that are effective. And so that skill set transferred over to
Mm,
my transformational coaching business.
yeah, I can see that.
So when I was an aerospace engineer, I would lead large teams to get to root of technical challenges very quickly,
Right.
including leading teams to help resolve grounded fighter jets. And so that really involved, I would say, the systems engineering thinking, the project engineering thinking, and applying the what I call the 5 W's and 1 H: who, what, where, when, why, and how. And so that's really like that curiosity mindset, and making sure not that I wouldn't leave any stones unturned.
Right.
Well, that mindset carries over to transformational coaching business. And so now I love helping my clients get to the root of their challenges, and I guide them to discover if it's at the subconscious level,
Mm,
and we can
yeah.
do something about it.
Right.
So this is about helping people, guiding them to discover the power within themselves.
Right. One of the things I learned is that 95% of the behaviors that we have and the things that we do are at a subconscious level. And if we don't bring them up and become aware of them, then we're just kind of like living by this program that's running in the background. And at times we don't know why we're doing what we're doing. And we find ourselves doing something and we're like, why am I doing that? But when you get in touch with that, you realize that it's a subconscious programming, that there are ways that you can transform that and deal with those limiting beliefs and question them. But if you never stop to question, then you're actually just kind of living on automatic pilot from a program that it was created years ago and is probably very outdated and needs to be upgraded. But without being aware of that, you just kind of keep repeating those patterns. Do you find that in your coaching?
Oh, yes, absolutely. And this is very powerful conversation, because that subconscious, to your point, is active like 95% of our lives.
Right.
And so it's been recording everything since you were in the womb, and it plays back everything you have heard. It doesn't actually state what's right or what's wrong.
Mm,
And so the more negativity
mm,
or that you have as inputs, the more negativity shows up in your life. The more positive inputs, and then more positivity shows up in your life.
right.
And so this is where the subconscious, because a lot of our programming happens in early life.
Yeah.
And up to the age of 7, we were talking about different brain waves. So it's like the theta waves. And so a lot of that programming is from that early childhood. And
Yeah.
so there's actually reason behind that. It was to actually protect ourselves. It's for safety and security. However, a lot of those programs are outdated,
Right.
to your point. And so it's time to actually upgrade them. And this
Yeah.
is about being the CEO of your life and recognizing you have the power to create an even better life
Yes.
and to live your best life yet. And
Right.
so this is where surfacing those subconscious beliefs is so important, because the subconscious is like that high-speed train,
Mm-hmm.
whereas your conscious mind is like riding a bicycle. Well, if that high-speed train is pointed in the wrong direction, you may get there
Really
faster,
fast.
but you're not. But now it's time to steer it in the same direction as where your bicycle's headed. Another analogy is that subconscious is like the supercomputer,
Yeah,
and your conscious mind is like the keyboard to that supercomputer.
right.
And, the great thing about the subconscious is that it controls your digestion, your body temperature, and so much more without you having to think about it.
Exactly, exactly. Now you've written a number of articles. I know you've written some things on brain science and so on, but you've also written some articles that emphasize upgrading the human operating system. That's kind of what we're talking about. Can you elaborate on what else does that mean, and how does it impact someone's productivity, again, if they are not in touch with the fact that their operating system needs to be upgraded?
Yes, yes. So I've written a number of articles that have been featured in Brains magazine. And these articles talk about upgrading your human operating system, which is your divine heart, mind, and body intelligence.
Right.
And so to upgrade your human operating system, you can tap into the powerhouse, which is your brain, and align it with your divine heart, which is your intuition, your higher self, the Holy Spirit within, the superconscious, and also tapping into and harmonizing the heart, the mind, and the body intelligence to create that life that you want. And so when we look at how do we do this, when I say tapping into your heart, mind, body intelligence,
Mhm.
so your divine heart is connected with that divine intelligence within you, the creator within you, that intuition that really guides you. And so one way to do this is, okay, well, breathing into your heart and asking, how do I best proceed? And developing that relationship with your higher self.
Right.
The mind, which is the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. So when there are too many stressors and triggers,
Yeah.
then you know that there's an imbalance.
Yeah.
And to correct that imbalance, it's like upgrading software on your smartphone.
Right.
It's discovering what those corrupted apps are, which are those outdated subconscious programs. And it's as simple as downloading the latest software and rebooting.
Yeah.
And so the challenge that some folks experience when they have those limiting beliefs, and there's always the positive affirmation statements. And a lot of times the positive affirmation statements do work. However, the subconscious, which is a supercomputer, if there's that deep-seated programming, I mean, it's a supercomputer. It's operating at like 40 million bits of information per second, whereas your conscious mind is operating at 40 bits of information per second.
Mhm. Yep.
So to actually make that shift happen, that's where connecting with the higher self can actually help transform the whole situation.
Right. Right. It's kind of like when you're upgrading your operating system, your firmware on your computer or on your phone, the phone shuts down, right? It doesn't do anything else. You can't use it to go, look up anything. You can't use it for directions. You can't make a phone call. It is actually shut down. And to me, what I've learned through this journey I've been on when I started the Productivity Smarts podcast was that I needed to, one, slow down, right? I needed to slow down. And that when I started writing out affirmations, when I started learning more about meditation, I've always prayed, But when I stopped and started meditating and would pray, but then would just be quiet and reflect
Hmm.
and allow myself to go into that theta wave state where I could repeat a mantra of, I'm getting better and better, or this is where life is going, or I'm writing out my goals and I'm listening to that music, I can begin to see that my operating system is being upgraded. And then if I do it consistently and persistently, I will then
Yes.
cover that. Now, there's other ways which I've learned through other interviews and discussions and reading the things that you've talked about, was that you can actually go directly to those things. So, for instance, if you are struggling with negative thoughts, oh, I'm not good enough, while the job market is really getting bad, and this, what's going on with the economy and all the tariffs and everything else, it's gonna, and AI and globalization and global war. I mean, it just goes on. And if you find yourself in this place where you're just stuck with these negative thoughts, you can actually get out of that by slowing down and beginning to rewire how you think. I mean, what are your thoughts?
Exactly. Yes, absolutely. So, one of the things that I guide my clients through is to really breathe into their divine hearts and connect with their higher self, to align with their divine paths. And when they come to see me, it's because they want something else instead of what they're
Right,
experiencing,
right,
and they want something better. So
right.
I always ask them, what do you want instead? What do you want
Yeah,
instead? And if you can
yeah,
be clear with your conscious mind about what you want instead, and connect with your higher self to know, is this the top priority for you?
right,
And it's an interesting conversation with the higher self, where sometimes there's a higher priority than what you've identified. And your higher self will let you know. It's an inner knowing, it's sound, it's music, it's however you, whatever resonates with you the most. And
right.
then we do muscle testing. The muscle testing is how we communicate with the subconscious. And the muscle testing, there's different ways to go about it, but this is the language of the subconscious,
Right.
is to give yes, no, true, false responses. So if you make a statement like, I am worthy of the best that life and love have to offer, regardless of what's actually happening in your external environment. Because the key thing is, you want to create peace within yourself. When
Yeah,
you can create peace and harmony within yourself and balance within yourself, then that's where things start happening in the world. When you can, it's like what we were just talking about, more positivity, and you have more positive inputs, and more positivity shows up. So when you can create peace within yourself, then more peace starts showing up in your world. And
exactly.
so the statement, I'm worthy of the best that life and love have to offer, I will tell you that 95% plus of my clients actually don't resonate with that statement at the
Yeah,
subconscious level. Their conscious mind may believe it, but their subconscious, there's something holding them back.
yeah,
So, with the permission of the higher self, we then proceed. And more often than not, it's through a Psych-K balance, which is how to get to a whole brain state. And there's different modalities that are and protocols associated with the Psych-K balances, including postures and movements to get to that whole brain state. That's that tapping into the heart, mind, body intelligence.
right.
There's also energy focusing as well. And the key is to align the subconscious with the conscious mind's desired goals. And so it's super powerful.
Right. I mean, I think a lot of times what creates a lot of angst for most folks is that their conscious thoughts and their subconscious thoughts are in opposition. And so internally, they feel torn, right? So if you're feeling torn, it's because your conscious thoughts and where you want to go, and your non-conscious thoughts of where you're really going are are at odds, and it's really about alignment. And it's something that as you were sharing it, I thought, I think here's a pretty good example or a good comparison, if you will, when you're talking about muscle testing, because I believe in muscle testing, right? And that's where you ask yourself something and you can put your arm out and you can, you try to hold it stiff and you say, my name is Sue, right? And my arm's not going to stay up because my name is not Sue. But you get the idea. Well, that's the same thing they do in courtrooms or at the police station when they give you a lie detector. They're basically talking to your non-conscious self and saying, what's your name? What's this? Were you at the scene?
Yeah.
and right. And if you were at the scene, even though your face and conscious mind is saying, no, I was not at the scene, your body is going to respond with the answer, yes, I was at the scene. And so it's the same concept. And, another thing that you brought up, and because I've heard it a little bit differently from one of my coaches, and he talked about the size of the conscious mind compared to the non-conscious. So, if you're driving, don't do this, but if you're just sitting there or just standing, look down at your feet and draw a circle around your feet. And that's the size of your conscious mind. Now take a dot in the middle of your feet and go out and think about what's 11 miles away from you and draw a circle 11 miles all the way around you. That would be the size of your non-conscious. And that's the one in control, right?
So I would add to that and say, I would define that as the subconscious. And then your superconscious is like out to the ends of the universe and beyond. And your superconscious is like the all-knowing. And so this is where to actually have greater impact over your subconscious is to really align with your divine path with the help of the superconscious, the higher self, the intuition that's beyond. Yeah.
And so it's really a lot of work when you're dealing with subconscious blocks and the things that will really hinder us. It's really going in and doing that work to get an alignment. And another way I always think about it, because I love football, it would be like a football team, the Chicago Bears playing against the Ravens, right? And the Bears, part of the team is going one way and the other part of the team is going another way. Well, we know that there's something, one, there would be something functionally wrong with that team. And then two, we know they're never going to win anything. But many of us live that way, where our conscious mind is going in one direction, but subconsciously the rest of the team is going other different directions and in a whole different way. And we're never really aligned and we feel torn and we don't know why we're not making progress in life. And it's because the parts of us that are a team need to get aligned, but that requires us to do the things that you're talking about. And a part of that is slowing down and meditating. And just really quickly, before I ask you another question, I studied something called heart math, right? There's an association out there called heart math, where they have a device that can actually monitor your heart and your brain wave. And you can breathe into a point where it's called heart and brain coherence.
Yes.
Right? So there's scientific proof that your heart, because your heart was the first thing that was created in your mother's womb. You, as a fetus, it was the first thing. Then your brain was created. So your heart is actually more intelligent than your brain. And by syncing those two, it helps you get in touch with that divine self to that superconscious level and to begin to bridge the gap between the conscious and the subconscious level. But it's also a really scientific concept.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm in agreement with you. And in addition to that, when I say breathe into your divine heart is not necessarily your physical heart. It's your soul heart. Yeah. And that divine heart is that access point to that divine intelligence that's connected with the divine source. And so it's when people may feel like some heaviness in their physical heart, but when you breathe into your divine heart, there's a sense of love well beyond our physical comprehension.
Yeah.
And I'm going to challenge you to think even differently, that the subconscious can actually be reprogrammed very
Yeah.
quickly. And this is the method of Psych-K to actually help people align and guide them to align their subconscious with their conscious mind's goals with the help of the superconscious and engaging the divine heart. And so, one of the protocols, which is energy focusing, is pulling in sun energy, Mother Earth energy, and alchemizing it with divine heart energy to send it to whatever body part needs it the most. And the key, though, with Psych-K is that we don't promise results. We promise that you'll get to a whole brain state.
Right.
So if there was a cup that's between us and I ask you to describe it and you describe a certain pattern and I disagree with you because I see something else from my angle. Well, once you're in a whole brain state, you can see 360.
Right.
And so that gives you even greater perspective on life and helps you be even more resourceful. And the key, though, is that you have to take action.
Yes.
So it's like upgrading the software on your smartphone. Now you've got this amazing potential. It's what you do with it.
Right.
And are you going to have introduce more corrupted apps? Or are you going to say, okay, I think this is a brand new slate. I'm going to change my ways.
Exactly. Exactly. And I think that's really important because I think someone could be listening and saying, okay, I'm hearing what you guys are saying, and it sounds a little woo-woo to me, but how do we make it practical? And I'll just share from my example of how I made it practical for me was when I started aligning my conscious and non-conscious and subconscious and started feeling like I was going in the same direction and not being as torn. I then took my day planner, which is basically just a moleskin notebook, let's say it that way. And I use the Stephen Covey concept where I will list out my roles of like the things that I'm focused on. And then I will then write out, okay, well, these are my roles are tied to my goals, and this is what I'm doing today. And every night I will then rewrite that list and I will get in a quiet state and I'll think, what's important now? Where am I going? Where am I at with this task? Where am I at with this task? Where am I at with that task? And I'll come up with all these different things. I'll look at my phone list and I'll put all this together in the various areas and on one page, if you will. And then I'll look at the entire page and I'll ask myself, what is the most important thing that I can get done now? And I'll say, if I could not do anything else tomorrow, but one thing, what is that thing that's going to make the biggest difference in my life? And that I take a red pen and I'll put a number 1 next to it. And then I'll ask the next question until each one of them have a number. And then I'll kind of think about it and I'll sleep on it. So now my non-conscious and my mind is like working on it overnight while I'm sleeping. And I get up in the morning,
awesome.
I got my plan, and I just start going after number 1, and I just go down the list and I start seeing results, because now it's no longer about being just in this state of bliss or meditating. It's being in a state of activity, but being very calm and focused and purposeful.
Yes, absolutely. And I love how you have so much discipline and you can actually identify number 1, number 2, number 3. My
Right.
ADHD mind is like, here's my checklist. Everything's top priority.
Right. Well, I always write when I put it together, I always write the date, and I write 3 things. I write when, W-I-N, what's important now. I write 80-20, meaning 20% of what I do is going to I'm looking for it to give me 80% of results. And then I'll write TOC, theory of constraints. And that is, what is the constraint? What is the limitation that I need to take advantage of to get more done? And honestly, I do that every day, and it makes a difference. Now, I have another question for you, because you talked about a nonprofit the empowered heart. Can you tell me a little bit about that? And how does it help? I think you're working with women physically, mentally, and emotionally with their well-being.
Yes, yes. So the empowered heart is dedicated to educating people in general on strategies, tools, techniques for physical, mental, and emotional well-being. And that includes stress relief techniques for everyone. And it's available on our website, empowered-heart.org, and also on the YouTube channel, Empowered Heart. And these stress relief techniques, they're important for everyone because, there was a Harvard research that was done relative to 80% of doctors' visits are due to stress.
Yeah.
And so if we can identify and come up with methods to actually address stress, to create the balance in our lives, then how much more productive can we be? And so when we talk about, meditation, mindfulness activities, there's actually research that
Yeah.
goes behind all that that says that self-care will actually make you even more productive.
Right.
And so the other aspect of what I do is self-defense training for women. So I'm a certified Gracie Jiu-Jitsu women empowered instructor, and I teach women self-defense every week. I also have gone into schools and churches and taught kids and teachers and parents relative to how to establish those healthy boundaries, even verbal and mental jujitsu, to defend yourself against potential attacks from strangers, non strangers, ourselves, and energy vampires. And one of the
Mm.
key things is when we talk about productivity and we
Yeah.
start talking about, well, I can't do this or I can't do that, all those limiting beliefs. When
Yes.
you have a negative thought about yourself or the project you're trying to get done, immediately say, cancel, 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 and reframe.
Yep.
Okay, I may not be ready for this yet. However, I'm taking the necessary courses or learning the right skills and information to be efficient and effective at whatever it is that you're trying to do.
Right.
So this is where I'm not proposing that it's just all positive thinking. I'm proposing balanced thinking. And the
Yeah.
challenge is that we have like too much negativity. And that's why there's this whole push towards more positivity to balance ourselves out. But at the end of the day, what you want is accurate thinking. And this is where those questions about what's the outcome I want? What's my
Right.
intent? What's your intent? How else can we view the situation?
Right.
How is person capable? How am I capable? That's the empowerment dynamic. And embracing that empowerment dynamic and the creator in you, that's how we can be even more productive.
Exactly. When I think about this what we're talking about, and you'd mentioned it's not positive thinking, and you're right. But here's a way of looking at it. How many times a day do we wash the dishes after we eat? Well, if we eat 3 times a day, we probably should rinse them out and put them in the dishwasher and then run the dishwasher once a day, or we rinse them or we wash them right away. But the point is that every day that we use something and we go out and we live, we're taking in all of the negative or even if we're putting food on our plate, which is good, and we thank the creator for creating this food for us to eat and nourish our bodies, it still dirties the plate. So life itself is a game that constantly brings on, either negativity or dirt or whatever into the situation. But what we have to do is constantly wash our minds, right?
I love it. I love it. I actually wrote an article called Healthy Mental Diet. Because it's not just the foods you consume. It's
Right,
exactly what you're saying. It's like you're
right,
consuming things and you don't even know you're consuming it. You just
right.
turn on the TV and there's a whole bunch of drama playing out. So,
Exactly. All the news, you scroll Facebook, you scroll this, you scroll that, you walk down the street, you hear an argument in the grocery store. All of that is impacting you one way or the other. And here's something, when I started this podcast, it was after having a major bout with vertigo and I lost the ability to walk. I think I shared that story at one of our meetings. And I had to go through this whole process. But what I discovered in my research was that 1 in 5 Americans have had that happen to them to some point where they've had a vestibular or a vertigo imbalance. And guess what is the
mm,
major culprit of that? It's stress.
mm,
It's stress. And so if we're not constantly rinsing and washing out our brain with positivity through meditation, through taking care of ourselves, then over time you will find out that, oh, I'm not feeling so well, or you start feeling a little lightheaded. That's stress impacting your neurology. And if you don't deal with it, it will create a physical issue, right? It will create a
exactly.
physical ailment. And it's really, really important.
Yes. And so this is very timely. There's actually two books that I've been referencing. One is called Messages from the Body, and the
Mm,
other one is the Encyclopedia of Ailments and Diseases.
yes,
And both books say that for every ailment or disease, there's a psychological reason behind it. And
yes,
yes, it is stress related.
right,
And when you actually read these passages and discover what was the actual psychological meaning, then it's like releasing that energy from the system that no longer serves you. And
right,
when I say energy, it's because we are all vibrational beings.
yes,
So we're made of cells. Cells are made of atoms. Atoms are made of electrons, protons, and neutrons. Protons and neutrons are up quarks, down quarks. So at the end of the day, it's all energy. And so,
we're all
so
vibrating at some level.
exactly. And so I've learned a lot of different qigong techniques,
Mm,
and it's
yeah,
all about balance.
yes,
And there's 12 organs that house various emotions. So there's negative and positive emotions, love-based and fear-based emotions. And you want balance. And too often there's too much of the negative. So it's important to transform it to positive or to
right.
just let it go.
Exactly, exactly. As we get ready to wrap up here, I have a question for you, and that is with continuous learning, and obviously it's a vital part of growth and of development. And I think it's a part of who we are as people because, you know, I think there's a part of us that have to be content, but I think there's a part of us that, like the creator, is continually expanding. Our universe is continually expanding. We're a part of the universe. And so we want to continue to expand. That's just who we are. And so it's nothing wrong with that. But to do that, it requires growth. How does incorporating learning and just this continuous desire to grow into our routine, how can that help us? And how can the things that we're discussing today help us to put ourselves in a place where we are growing at the right levels, at the right times, not trying to do too much, but at the same time, not doing too little, where we're just being content, just kind of settling, but realizing that a big part of who we are and what motivates us as human beings is growth.
Yes, indeed. And let me put it this way. I've been observing people in their 80s and 90s, and I've seen people who are really super active, constantly learning something new, and they're embracing life and they're fully like mentally there.
Right.
And and then I've also observed people who haven't learned. They're just, you know, just
Exist.
not even fully embracing life,
Yeah.
okay? And and so they have setbacks. And the importance of learning is about neuroplasticity.
Right.
And it's always important to learn something new, whether it's physical, mental, learn pickleball. I picked up pickleball recently, and it's about that engagement of the heart, body, and mind so that we can actually create new connections
Right.
in between our neurons and develop the resiliency to bounce back faster when there are setbacks in our lives. And
Yes.
so it's important for brain health to be learning something new. And yes, at a pace that resonates with you. And so this is where I say breathe into your divine heart and ask your higher self for guidance. I breathe into my divine heart and I ask my higher self, please guide me. What's my focus today? Okay, am I living in alignment with my spiritual growth and psychological growth? And I've been caught up in periods of time in my life where it was all about accumulating,
Right.
accumulating. And then there's a disconnect between the inner happiness and the external success. And it's
Right.
when it's all in alignment and recognizing, oh, it's not just accumulation. What is my purpose on this earth? My
Right.
spiritual that will feed my spiritual growth and my psychological growth.
Yeah.
And then there's like this immense sense of freedom, balance, harmony, and satisfaction that
Yeah.
I'm aligned with my divine path.
Exactly. Exactly. As you were talking, I remember someone saying, "What's the difference between the Dead Sea and the Mediterranean Sea?" And that is the Dead Sea takes in water, but it doesn't let anything out. And that the Mediterranean water comes in, but it also flows out. And so
Mm,
comes to accumulating and wealth and just life and energy, it's not only what we take in, but it's are we giving back? Are we allowing it
yes.
to pass through us and to be good stewards? Because, most people who just accumulate, their lives become like the Dead Sea. And that's why you hear stories of people who are really, really wealthy that just ended their lives on their own because
Hmm.
they got to a point where they were like, I thought all of this accumulation would make me happy, and it actually made them sad, made them worse off.
Yes.
And it was
Yes.
those who are more like the Mediterranean, where the water is flowing in, but it's also flowing out, and you're enjoying that process of the flow. And the water is much healthier, and so on. The Dead Sea, there's nothing that happens there. There's nothing living in it. There's nothing growing.
I love that analogy. That's beautiful. I love it. I love it. And I
Excellent.
have to commend you. I watched your TED Talk and I'm like, wow, this man went through vertigo and 6 weeks later you delivered an amazing TED Talk. It I mean, I'm helping someone right now learn
Yeah,
to walk again.
yeah,
And
it's
a
tough.
lot of it has to do with the subconscious and the conscious mind.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so you fully demonstrated embracing being the CEO of your life and embracing the empowerment dynamic. And that was just absolutely incredible.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And, I wouldn't wish it on anyone, but that experience taught me so much more about myself and about life and really made me appreciate life and, the idea of, whatever other time I have to live it to the full and not only just take in, but to give back and to, I have a nonprofit and I'm doing a bunch of different other things. But that's one of the reasons I do this podcast is I really want to leave a legacy of information that's accessible and entertaining and fun, but educational that people can walk away and listen to it for free. And it makes their lives better because then my
I
life
love
would
it.
be worth living. So, Agnes, where
Love
can people learn more about you and find out about the things that you offer and even work with you or have you come to speak and work with their organizations?
Yes, they can check out my website, agneschau.com, AGNESCHAU.com. And I've have various resources on that website, including articles and podcasts that will help people, and also information about brain health as well. And then through the Empowered Heart as well, empowered-heart.org.
Excellent. Well, it's been a pleasure talking with you, having this conversation. And I knew I was looking forward to it because of all the things that you've been doing. And I knew we would have a great conversation. So thank you so much again for being a guest on the Productivity Smarts podcast.
Thank you, Gerald. This has been delightful and insightful. Thank you.
Excellent. If you're enjoying the content and finding it valuable, we would appreciate it if you could take a moment and leave us a review. Your feedback is important to us and helps us reach a wider audience. If you leave us a 5-star review, it would mean the world to us. Not only does it help us improve the podcast, but it also helps us attract more sponsors and grow our community. Thank you again for your support and for listening to the Productivity Smarts podcast.
Thank you for tuning in to Productivity Smarts, where we help you achieve your goals and live your best life. We hope you've gained valuable insights and actionable strategies to boost your productivity and increase your happiness and fulfillment. Remember to apply what you've learned and keep striving towards your goals. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to our podcast for more inspiring episodes and expert advice from our host, Gerald J. Leonard. Until next time, keep pushing forward and unleashing your productivity smarts.